TG Geeks, episode 130, August 14th, 2017. Elephants and Vampires and Elder Gods.
Oh my.
Hello and welcome to another webcast from tggeeks.com, where Ben and Keith, the Two Gay Geeks, talk about all aspects of geekdom and nerdery, sci-fi, comics, film, horror genre, you name it, we talk about it. I'm Keith Lane, and you're coming, and we are coming to you from the vacationing TG Squared Studios in Phoenix, Arizona.
And I'm Ben Raggington, also coming to you from TG Squared Studios in Phoenix, Arizona. But boy, am I looking forward to tomorrow when we will be in Seattle.
Yes. And that's kind of our, what I was going to say here, a little vacation blurb. We're going to be doing a little bit of a truncated episode for this episode and the next couple. Actually from the previous episode last week and the next couple of episodes, because we are going to be on vacation. And
for the duration of August.
Yeah, practically the entire month of August. So during that time, we're going to be doing these truncated episodes, mostly just interviews, and we're going to have our usual follow-up items, and we're going to catch up on feedback when we return with a Feedback-a-Palooza episode, assuming that everyone...
Well, we got some feedback already.
Gives us some feedback.
We got some feedback still from Comic-Con that we haven't shared yet.
And we have an interview with you, for you this time.
Speaking of Comic-Con.
Yeah, speaking of Comic-Con, this was one of those things that we, a side benefit of going to San Diego Comic-Con is we got this interview, and we have another one that's coming up sometime in the future, as well as several others. So we're just going to get right to this interview, and here we go. And this time on the show, we have Hannibal Tabu, a writer, and he's done lots of different writing. So welcome to the show, Hannibal.
I'm very happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Why don't you tell us, we've read some of your bio and some of your work, but tell our listeners who exactly you are and what it is that you do, and then we'll ask some other questions after that. How's that?
No problem. I won the 2012 Top Cow Talent Hunt and wrote Artifacts 35 for Top Cow and Image Comics with Eisner winner Michael Avon Waming and Nelson Blake II. I am also the weekly reviews columnist at Comic Book Resources, writing the Buy Pile, which has been going since 2006, if memory serves. And I have a current series out right now called Irrational Numbers from Wonderman Comics, which is a vampire supernatural historical fiction work, as well as two ongoing webcomics with the Operative Network, which are weekly and free at operative.net.
Wow, that's a lot. The Comic Book Resources, the Buy Pile. So you do a lot of reading of other comics and whatnot, I assume, for that.
Far more than my family would prefer. Yes, I read somewhere between 50 and 80 books a week.
Wow,
oh my Lord!
Yeah.
How do you have time to write?
I haven't slept since 1979.
Okay. You must have stock in like Folgers or Espresso or anything like that.
That's why you're writing the vampire novel.
Yes, you're living a nocturnal life now.
I can neither confirm nor deny.
Okay, well, there it is, people. Now you know the truth. So what was it that got you interested in writing in the first place? I mean, I look at your bio, and you are something of a Renaissance man. I mean, being a DJ, a vocalist, but what was it about writing that made you think, this is a field I wish to get into?
Well, I started writing for myself, really, at probably around 7 or 8. I had all these stories bursting in my head, like, I need to write this down, I need to write this down, because they were constantly running inside my head. And the only way to make them stop doing that was to get them out.
Get them out of your head.
Oh, yeah. So you said that on
Yeah, you said that
on the panel.
at San Diego Comic-Con.
Yeah, by the way,
how we met.
We went to a panel. It was Independent Creator Summit, that's right. And you were on that panel and giving people at San Diego Comic-Con, and you were giving people advice to that. So you said, get it out there. Just get it out there.
Get it out of your head. That resonated with me.
Yeah. So anyway.
Because that's what I was told by mentors. They said the difference between a working writer and somebody who's just talking is that they have product to show. They have something they can actually show for it, because until you get it out of your head, it's not saleable. It's not something anyone can do anything.
Right.
Even if it's a disjointed mess. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, because they always fix it in post, as they say.
Exactly. Anyway, so you started writing at 7 or 8, and then
how did that develop then?
Well, I first started to understand that I needed a better grasp on the craft of things, because my first big project at 8, I wrote on 220 pages of notebook paper, like college rule notebook paper.
Oh my God!
This grand sweeping saga of this group of gods that every once in a while they would come down to Earth and be humans and try to connect, and it was just this ridiculous, overwrought drama. It's terrible. I can't throw it away, and I'm hoping to burn it before I die, so it's not sound like Emily Dickinson. But
interesting.
It's really, really terrible.
Oh wow!
So
you never know. It might be something interesting.
Hey, maybe it's something you can salvage.
It's really, really scary, terrible.
Okay.
Call for help, terrible.
They will commit you if you write it.
I just started to work on craft. I started to work on understanding different things, what I liked, what I didn't like, reverse engineering those things from both the television I was watching and the reading I was doing, from Beverly Cleary to Douglas Adams and to Chip Delaney. I was working on having an understanding of what stories were about. And then I started working in journalism in high school. I worked for the school paper because for my own reasons, I found out that if I worked for the paper, that I could skip lots of classes and no one would care. Oh, he's doing something for the paper. It's fine. So I was like,
yeah,
it's like a excuse to cut class. This is perfect. So,
yeah, no ulterior motives here.
I'm the king of ulterior motives. So,
well, I'm the king of posterior motives. So.
No. That's a lot more paperwork. So I did that, and I moved into college where I was still doing a lot of journalism. I took a journalism internship at a newspaper called the Los Angeles Sentinel, which is the oldest black-owned newspaper west of the Mississippi. I really got into one of my mentors. His name was Dennis Schatzman. He was profiled in the People versus O.J. Simpson, that recent miniseries.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow.
And he says, I come to work about 9:30. I get on the phone. I screw with people half the day. I write some stuff. I go home to my family. What's not to like? I said,
exactly.
You know what?
Sounds
You
easy.
got something going on here. So I did that, as well as I was at USC taking classes in creative writing, focusing on poetry, focusing on figurative language and brevity more than anything else. So those two disciplines together gave me a slightly different approach to fiction. And then I'd been doing reviews for years and years at places like The Source, MTV Online, Rap Pages, AOL, and I was working with this .com called Next Planet Over, which sold comics and whatnot, and I had to hire an editor for it. And the guy I hired was a guy named Eric Stevenson. He's now the head of he's like the publisher at Image Comics now, but back then he was just a guy looking for a job. And
right.
He said, I need somebody to help me write these reviews. I've seen you done before. I'm like, yeah, I guess I'll do it. He's like, you ever think about writing comics? This could get your name out there. I'm like, yeah, I guess, whatever. If that's what you want, sure. So started writing reviews, realized I liked it, and that was 2000, gosh, that would have been around 2000. And then he started a small site of his own called spinnerack.com where we continued it. He stopped doing that. I felt like continuing. Went to the Usenet with it, and all the time I'm writing stories. I've written novels. I've written all kind of other stuff that I'm doing in parallel to this. And it's always, the writing doesn't stop just because the checks aren't there.
Right.
And I just kept working towards it until eventually I quote unquote broke in with the Top Cow Talent Hunt, and here we are.
Wow. So all of this writing that you have done in the past and not published, so it's a wealth of knowledge of source material for things that you can turn out here eventually, I would assume.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. There's any writer will have an iceberg-like state of things. The small amount of stuff that you see above the water has nothing to do with the mountain of stuff that he's done beneath the water that you will likely either never see or that will come out in different ways.
You have
My two novels that I've done are self-published, so there's not. I try to monetize what I can, but I'm much more interested in doing the work than selling the work.
Right. So you have several storage units full of material that you.
I have several hard drives full. My wife made me get rid of the storage unit.
I see. So somebody had to type all of that.
Yes, sir.
Well, that is fascinating. I read through the Irrational Numbers, the first copy that you sent to us as a, and I thought it was fascinating. It was like, oh my gosh, you've really done some research on that to.
So much research.
I mean, it just the history and the algebra and the geometry and the whole history of numbers and everything there is just, it was just fascinating.
That's one of the things that I'm noticing, because I'm reading Menthu, and what I've really come to appreciate, especially after what you just said, at the age of 7, you were writing this, this massive epic. You seem to enjoy big sweeping stories.
I do.
What is it about the big, the big massive universe shaking kind of story that is appealing? Because I love that kind of stuff. I mean, I just eat that up for breakfast. What is it about that kind of material and that kind of storytelling that really appeals to you?
Well, there are two places that comes from. I grew up in Memphis. The first part is I grew up in Memphis, which for a gifted child was enormously boring in the 80s.
Well,
I was literally every day desperate to come up with something to do because everything was just so mundane and tedious.
Well, and Memphis being part of the South didn't help, I'm sure.
No. I mean, the oppressive heat, the humidity, the slower pace, it felt like everything was moving in slow motion all of my life. And I was always, my brain was like, there has to be more than this. This can't be reality. It has to be more than this.
Yes.
So that's the first part of it. And then while I was there, we can thank Paul Levitz for the Great Darkness Saga.
Yes.
One of the earliest comics memories I have is reading that he moved Daxam from a red sun to a yellow sun, made all of them into Superman level powers, had them fly into space and heat vision their own planet to look like Darkseid's head.
I never knew that story. I did not know that. Deep. I'm a big DC Legion fan, and I did not know that.
Great Darkness is, it's a masterpiece of balancing spectacle with character work, because as this happened, the Legionite Daxamite, whose name was Mon-El,
right?
He's horrified. I mean, his people, everything he's known is washed away in fire of heat vision as his people are lost to him. They're completely under the control of this mad ancient god, and he can't do anything. I mean, and he's no slouch. He's a Superman level power.
Right.
He juggles planets, but all of a sudden, on this scale, everything that he's seen has leveled up in a way that he can't even imagine. And watching that as a kid, I'm like, okay, this is new. This is some whole other stuff. And I've been addicted to that kind of working things up from the personal level, from the personal scale, because if you don't connect with the characters, you don't care what happens.
Bingo.
To this grandiose spectacle of thing. And I work to incorporate that into a lot of the work that I do.
That's what I've been loving about Menthu, is that you've managed to, within just pages, you're able to actually construct this massive sweeping story and yet reduce it to something that is so personal and one-on-one. I mean, to me, that is like the height of economic writing, where you can balance plot and character at the same time. That is a very tough line to to be able to walk on.
No, thank you. I give a lot of credit to that, to a place I go in Los Angeles called the Anansi Writers Workshop. It's a poetry workshop in Leimert Park here. And their word economy and brevity were of utmost importance. The idea of saying as much as you can in as small a space as possible. Mm-hmm. It's almost like an intellectual exercise. So with that in mind, I'm always conscious of, okay, if I got 22 pages, or if I got 20 pages of whatever I'm trying to make this fit to, how can I make that work in the best possible way that I balance everything out? And I'm always very conscientious of that, and making sure that I'm trying to make sure that each word carries enough weight to move the story forward.
When you're writing something, do you just kind of like, pardon the expression, do you just kind of like vomit it all out and then start editing it? Or is it happening all at the same time as you're trying to write it out, you're trying to self-edit simultaneously?
I work very heavily from outline. Outlining is the number, because the way that they say the map is not the territory, I make the outline as the map of where I want to go. And then as I start in the scripting process, I discover things about characters, about setting, about details that can be expanded upon and that can make it more personal. For example, I'm writing right now a story called Scoundrel, which is going to be a new miniseries from Wonderman Comics in December. And it's set in Boyle Heights in East LA in 1981, where I was not here, and I was, I think, 8. So I was in Memphis at the time. But I've done so much research with, people who worked in Spanish language radio at the time, people who lived in these communities and so on and so forth, that when I start to work on the Cinco de Mayo thing from Whittier Park, which was this ginormous celebration with thousands and thousands of people, that I'm able to imbue it with a lot of detail, a lot of specific things that not only make the story stand out to people who were there, but give people who weren't there an idea of what they would have seen. Mm-hmm. It has to be very... one of my writing teachers says, if somebody lands from Mars and all they do is understand English, how are you going to tell them the story? How are you going to make them understand what you're saying? And I write everything that way. So I start from outlines, and then I script, and then I edit relentlessly like I don't like myself. And then I go on to the editor and hope to God that I haven't screwed anything up.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I have a question, and Ben usually asks this question. We have an author friend who her way of writing is she says it, she calls it from the hind brain, where she's kind of taking dictation from the characters. Are the characters living in your head, or everybody has a different way. We've heard various iterations of this, but
usually it boils down to sort of the same thing. By the time you're actually putting pen to paper and you're writing your story, at some point there is some kind of already internal narration that is going on, telling you how to direct the story. Do you experience that?
That's very close to it, and that, ironically enough, I got from playing Dungeons and Dragons.
Aha! More epic, sweeping stories.
Exactly, yeah. We would do multiple characters. So there were, in the 90s, these things called multi-user dimensions.
Yep.
Telnet-based Dungeons and Dragons games you could log into. And I played on one called Gizmo Mud, where they let you play 4 characters at a time, which to me seemed like, I'm like, well, if they're characters, they have to be different characters. Mm-hmm. They have to have different voices. They have to speak differently. So people, like years later, people came up and they would be like, so could you tell me that guy in your group, such and such, about him? I'm like, that wasn't the guy, that was me.
Yeah.
And they're like, but what? I thought you were the other guy in the group. I'm like, that was also me. then what about the girl? I'm like, that was
also me.
I was playing all. The whole group was you.
And that was using that let me learn how to speak in different voices, sometimes simultaneously, sometimes to each other.
Wow.
And before I'm writing the outline, even I do. If you remember the old Who's Who in the DC Universe or Marvel handbooks, I do a write-up like that of virtually every character that I've done, but even with more detail. So it's like, what's their astrological sign? What kind of music do they like? I know my character's shoe sizes. So by the time it's time to write them, their voices are very clear to me.
Mm-hmm. Right. Oh, that sounds a lot like Jonathan. Jonathan's the same way. Another author friend of ours who has these entire backstories written for these characters. It may never show up in any of his work, but it helps him to actually know and be able to tap into that part of his brain, and identify with that particular character, whether it be our hero or our antagonist. I mean, he's able to shift into that mindset.
Or the policeman that's directing traffic down the street.
Yeah, because he knows everything about that character, including what that person had for breakfast, even though it may never show up in the story. Yeah, I can see how that would help.
It helps because even when you're having a conversation with me, things that have happened in your past will affect the things that you say. If I say something that sparks a memory, you'll be like, oh, wow, that's like, it will affect our current behavior. So if we don't have those backstories for the characters, then those characters become flat in their interactions with each other.
Yeah.
And that's abhorrent to me.
So I have a question for you. When did you, I kind of identify with you growing up where you grew up. I grew up in Muskogee, Oklahoma, so I understand the oppressive heat and the finding something real to do. I finally escaped to the big city, to Tulsa, which is a small town, literally. And then I went to Albuquerque and then wound up here in Phoenix. But when did you escape Memphis and go to the quote unquote big city?
That was a bit of a torturous tale, because Memphis, for the South, Memphis is like people will come in from Alabama, from Mississippi, from Arkansas, all to get to Memphis. It is the hub of all those places, and
right.
It was still mind-numbingly boring for me. I grew up with my great aunt and uncle, and in 1987, both of them had passed away, and I moved to Milwaukee to live with my great-grandmother, who I loathed passionately. And then there was also snow, which I also loathed passionately.
That's why I live in Phoenix.
Yeah, snow is all bad. So my mother came to get me. We then moved to Tacoma, Washington, which was also terrible in a different way because it rains constantly there.
Yeah.
Right.
And rain is just slightly better than snow. And I was like, okay, first of all, I have to get away from everybody I'm related to. Second of all, I have to get away from weather. And third of all, I have to get to a big city where stuff is happening.
Gee, I can only think of one city on the planet where that fits all criteria, and that's L.A.
Yeah, it was either this or Rio de Janeiro, and I don't speak Portuguese. So,
but you would learn if that was
if
the option.
It was needed, you would have your own little dictionary with you if you had to do it.
I figured that would be too much of an uphill climb. I'm just barely running it in English, so.
Wow. Well, that's fascinating. So then you went to LA, and then your life changed dramatically, I would imagine. Yeah. So
it's been quite a climb here in LA, and I'm very grateful for both the opportunities and the people that I've met. Growing up in Memphis, I was, and even the teachers admitted this, I was the smartest person I had ever met in Memphis.
Okay.
I just, I didn't have the same experience as a lot of my teachers or adults, but they all clearly understood I had better processing power than them. When I got to LA, I finally met people who I wasn't smarter than them. And I was like, oh my God, I didn't know how to react for a while.
Right.
And meeting more people like that and understanding that there was as Sting says, there was a deeper world than this tugging at my hand really gave me a lot of new perspectives on both myself and my writing, which, allows me to have, I believe, a better perspective. Because, for a kind of countryish kid from Memphis to come out here and be able to write about Romania or the different areas of the world I'm writing. I wrote a whole scene in my novel about this Greek island of Smee, where I spent weeks and weeks going back and forth with the head of the tourist bureau there.
Oh my gosh.
And when I sent her the chapter finally, she was like, this is like you've lived here. This is amazing.
That's great.
And I've never been there. So I believe that moving to Los Angeles was the best thing for me in a lot of ways.
Well, that's great. Just on another little side note, I learned to play Dungeons and Dragons from the old books.
Ditto.
I had the original.
Mm-hmm.
I had the first edition copies of the books.
Nice.
Starting with chainmail. I was told to get that first.
Well, keep in mind you're talking to a couple of mid-50-year-old queens. I mean, so yeah, we've been there since the dawn of D&D.
Yes.
I'm 44, so I'm not too far behind.
No, not too far behind. So I'm fascinated again. With the stories that that Keith have read and that I've read. I wonder about, and I'm going to try and phrase this question right. I'm fascinated with the birthing of an idea, how where do some of this ideas actually kind of come from? Say, for example, like with Irrational Numbers, what was that little germ of spark that took you into that initial direction? Well, I mean, was there something along the lines of, you read something on Greece and then thought, I wonder if vampires ever lived there? Or, I mean, what kind of thought actually occurred to take you in that direction?
Well, since you haven't read that,
I'll tell you,
the vampire thing
ahead,
is kind of a plot twist at the very end of that. I mean, there's this big long story, and then all of a sudden it's like, where the heck did that come from?
Well,
it was fascinating.
I'll tell you that one. I'll tell you that one specifically, and I'll then more generalize on how the process works. For both Scoundrel and Irrational Numbers, these are works for hire. And about 2.5 years ago, I was at WonderCon on a panel, speaking just as you guys saw me. And a gentleman named Nate Wonderman, who's my publisher now, he saw me. And out of the blue, he emails me about a week after WonderCon, says, I saw you on your panel. I love the stuff you were saying. Would you be interested in writing some stuff? I said, does it pay? And he says, yes, it pays. I'm like, then let's talk. And he had the seed of an idea. He said to me, he's like, I want 2 comics, basically. I want one reinterpolating this series of paintings by Thomas Hogarth from the 18th century called The Rake's Progress. And I want one that's this kind of century-sweeping vampire saga that goes from, it starts with Pythagoras, but it ends up in Romania. And that's literally all he had. That sentence was all he had. And I just said, the second he said both of them, my brain started running. My brain started processing. It was easier, actually, to do the vampire one.
Right.
Because that one, I had a set place, I had a set time. The other one, I looked at a multiplicity of different opportunities for reinterpolating the Rake's Progress, which is this, it's called the first storyboard. And I looked at it and looked at somebody who inherits a bunch of money and then screws it off and then ruins their life. And there's a gajillion ways I could have gone with that. But at the time, I was in Pasadena with some friends, and I ran into this franchise called King Taco. And it's an East LA-based family business that came from the ground up. And I started researching their story, and I was like, this is perfect. The only problem is they don't have an idiot son. So I added an idiot son, and everything worked out. When people tell me things, like in a split second, from the second they start telling me the seed of an idea, my brain can start running if I don't stop it.
Oh my gosh.
And that has helped me with the work for hire stuff I've had to do a great deal. When I'm working on my own stuff, I normally start with either a scene, like something, I see something happening, and I'm like, well, who are these people? Why are they doing this? What led them to this moment? Or I start with the idea of a character, something based on someone I know, an idea for something. Right now, I'm working on an independent project for a short film with a friend of mine named Michael David Lynch, who produced this project called Dependence Day with my wife and my kids in it. And we just wanted to have something where someone with a ridiculous amount of power and no desire to do anything with it is forced to act. And the seed of that story just started me just, running. The second we had that much, I'm like, all right, I'm good. I got this. Let me pound out a 7,000-word character description. And we were off to the races.
It sounds like a lot of this just kind of like writes itself.
My brain feels like it. If I'm really like on my game, I don't feel like I'm doing anything at all. I feel like when you plug a circuit in together and something's just flowing through me. Mm-hmm. It's the same when I'm singing karaoke. It's the same when I'm DJing. It's the same when I'm writing blurbs for marketing copy. If I'm telling the story right, I'm just channeling what I feel, what the universe needs to have happen, needs to have created. I'm just the vessel for it.
Oh, wow. I certainly understand that.
That's fascinating. My writing is a little more tortured, so Ben's the writer. I agonize over paragraphs.
I have my high school and college teachers to thank for that, though. But, they taught me a lot of the mechanics on writing. But yeah, I find that many times when I'm writing an article, or specifically when I'm writing reviews, that there are times where I just, if I can get into a nice quiet space in my head, then it just literally flows out of me, and it's like, oh my goodness, I'm already done with it, and I felt like I hadn't even broken a sweat.
Yeah. Occasionally I can write, but problem is I have to type with both fingers, so
Well, the dark gift is different for us all.
And I'm a touch typist, so it's very easy. I just stare at the screen and watch the words kind of spew out of me.
If I could just dictate it, because my mind goes crazy sometimes too, and it's like this idea, and then it just explodes, and then I can't write, I can't type fast enough.
That comes up with a great question. Now, talking to you, obviously your brain is just like running 100 miles an hour all the time, it seems like. Is there, what about certain situations where an idea just kind of hits you, but you're not like at any kind of place where you can kind of jot it down? How do you keep that burning in the front of your brain so that it doesn't kind of wither away?
Well, I work very hard to keep a device near me at all times. I've got software called Scrivener, which allows you to not only type something in, but immediately as you type it in, it saves it to Dropbox, so you pull it down on whatever device you are. So I'm able to capture a lot of the things that go to me. But in the worst case scenario, if I'm holding a kid or if I've got like grocery bags or whatever, and I've got too much going on, I try to make a mnemonic device about it. So, for example, there's a song called the original version was by Skylar Grey, but it's called "Love the Way You Lie," and in my brain, it's exactly the story of these two characters in the fictional universe of one of my studio mates, Damian Gonzalez. So this whole song is the story of how these characters came to be. And when I think about the story that I want to work with them, I just think about on the first page of our story, the future looks so bright. And the second I hear that line, everything just spills out from there.
Oh, wow.
And if I can attach a mnemonic device, be it a song lyric, be it a physical, something I see or something like, kind of like the Sherlock Memory Palace, but maybe not that detailed, then I'm able to retain enough of the idea to capture it later.
Wow.
Far out.
That's incredible.
I'm sure your friends must be really scared to be around you for fear that anything that they say or do will all of a sudden end up in a piece of work.
My friends know who I am and what kind of a horrible person I am. They have no surprise.
So they're a little guarded sometimes.
They can be guarded all they want. It hasn't changed anything.
Well, that is just fascinating.
Far out. So let's talk about some of the works. Now, obviously, you've done Menthu. And I remember there was some talk at Comic-Con about the state of Menthu. Is that continuing?
The Menthu story that I did was a 3-issue story that Robert Roach and we actually finished it probably 3 years ago. But due to logistical reasons or whatever, we sat on it until we decided to start it as a webcomic. So the business plan works like we'll publish a page a week because it's 72 pages. 72? I hope I'm doing the math there right. Anyway, it's 72 pages. We publish a page a week, and it just comes out like clockwork. I just have to remember to wake up Monday morning and press the right button. And then at the end of the year, at December, we're going to take all of it down except, say, probably the first 7 pages. And then we're going to make that a print book that we'll take up to the Black Comics Arts Festival in San Francisco, and we'll also start selling it online. And then in theory, because I've got another Menthu story behind that in my brain, I just haven't slowed down to write it yet, we're going to start a new webcomic in 2017 now? I can't remember.
Yeah.
I guess 2018. So,
what year is it?
I don't even know a lot of things right now because there's no screen in front of my face, so I'm only about a third as smart as I normally would be. But yeah, so that's the plan, that we'll keep being able to produce stories this way because Menthu is a very important character to Robert. I practice ancient Egyptian spirituality, so I have a connection to that that's very personal for me.
Mm-hmm.
And getting those stories right and making them accurate and making them resonate is of great importance to me.
Far out. So any other projects? I mean, you've not mentioned a number of things that you're currently working on. I hate to ask this question. How many different pies do you have your fingers in at the same time?
Wow. Okay.
You have more pies than you have
a doc-
fingers.
Yeah, sounds like.
I have a lot more pies. Yeah. I have a document that I share with my wife that has all of the projects I'm working on. So the ones that are active have little stars on them. And there are probably about, if memory serves, 12 of those, and there's probably another 17 projects behind that are like just either stuck with the deal won't go, or I need to work on something else first. I've got a novel that has been sitting for 5 years that I finished the manuscript. I've got edits back from 2 editors, and I haven't had time to apply those edits, and I have to get it done because it's set in 2018. So
Oh dear.
done by the end of the year.
Oh dear, yeah.
So somewhere in the neighborhood of 30, 35 projects
Good
all told.
heavens.
Wow.
You've got to
And
be
like
the
I said,
busiest. You have to be the busiest writer I've ever met.
And then he does DJing and karaoke, and you sing on the side, and you're an opera singer, and you're
Opera singer?
you're
Oh, wait a minute, I didn't know
bar-
about that.
a bartender, and a
And I do
whatever
my own
else.
makeup, yes, all of those things.
And he's a driver's ed teacher, I'm sure, at some point.
Yeah. In your spare
That's
time.
coming up sooner than I want. Yes.
Yeah.
It's. I tell people all the time, I don't write because I want to. I write because I have to. It's not a job; it's a calling,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't fight it. I just give into it.
Well, that's great. So, and the thing that is the most current that is going to be released actually tomorrow, as of our
This interview.
the release of this interview, is Irrational Numbers Volume 2.
Yes, it's because the big book that you have is a quote unquote 0 issue,
Right.
and when he told me he was going to do a 52-page book for $3.99, I was like, quit playing. Nobody does that. That's preposterous. But that's what he did. So the story starts in earnest in 1949 in Romania with the start of the next issue, and the series goes all the way up through the 1992 Romanian Revolution, and that will be, I guess, December, if my math is right. There's 6 total issues. So if I started one in July 15th and count 6 months out from that, that's when the book is over. Because to me, that book is done. I've written all those scripts. I've got most of the books on my iPad already. So for me, that book is intellectually, I'm done with it.
You're done
I'm
with
already
that.
on to the next project.
Okay, so
Yeah,
what
what
is the next project
talking
then?
about it.
What is
The next big project is
Yeah.
Scoundrel, which is the second. I'm in the second issue script of that right now, and I'm also doing the Wildfire Street Justice webcomic script. I'm also, what's the other thing that I'm doing? Right, I almost forgot. The problem is I write things so far back that when people tell me, "Oh, this is coming out," I'm like, "Oh, that thing? I forgot about that thing."
That old thing.
I have a science fiction story in the Dark Universe anthology coming out in November from MD Media, which is it's big. It's so, oh my God, I have so much fun with it. It's space opera basically, and it's set way, 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 way in the future. And I had to extrapolate a lot of ideas for what the future would look like in an extraterran space outside of our solar system, outside of, in some ways, our galaxy, and trying to figure out how that would have changed humanity and how that would have changed behavior, but how some things would be the same.
Mm-hmm.
And making that work was an enormous challenge. And that'll be out in November. It's called Dark Universe, I believe the anthology is called. And then there's that. There's I've got at least one poem in Voices from Leimert Park, Volume 2. I think that's out in October, I want to say.
Good
I'm
grief.
not so sure. Because, again, this is stuff I wrote like years ago.
Have you ever thought about going into therapy of all the different voices that are going on in your head? Because I have to believe that, I assume you jump, you don't, how can I ask this? You're multitasking on your projects.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like you're writing a little bit of this, and then you write a little bit of that, and then you write a little bit of this other thing, and so then several projects are simultaneously all approaching the finish line roughly around the same time.
Mm-hmm. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, fingers crossed. So I would imagine much the same way that you fully understand the characters within a particular story, you're able to jump from universe to universe, so to speak, when you're going from one
Mhm.
different project to another? How quickly can you shift gears like that, or do you need to give yourself like a day in order to kind of clear your head and let that other universe then kind of take seed?
I could probably turn it around inside of 45 minutes if I'm really if I have a day when I'm doing nothing but writing, I could do that. Because of the incremental nature of my life, with a day job, with a family, with all this other stuff going on, I have had to learn to work in very small parcels of time, very small things. And I came up with a saying that basically, because I was like super down on myself, and I came up with a saying that I use: incremental progress in all things. And I think about erosion. I think about things like that, how eventually all mountains fall.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't have to happen today. And you get a little bit closer, a little bit closer, a little bit closer every day. And as long as I'm moving forward, as long as I'm always moving forward on something, then it's probably not that bad.
Wow.
So I have a silly question. Do you ever get started writing on some story and then you find yourself writing for another story that
going tangential, I guess?
that you're writing irrational numbers, and then all of a sudden the
something else
scoundrel starts coming out of your.
Yes, that happens much more often than I would like, because a lot of times, every day when I get in the shower, my wife knows that I'm not just talking to myself. I may actually be working out dialogue. And I get in the shower and I'm like, okay, today I'm getting in the shower to think about this story point. I get in there, I'm like, ooh, but what if I threw a planet at somebody? I'm totally off base.
Wow.
And, so yeah, shiny things can easily distract me, but I hope, as always, the craft will bring me back. The discipline will bring me back to whatever I'm supposed to do before the deadline. Because yeah, I'm literally, what day is it? Oh, I got another week and a half before the Scoundrel script is due, and I just finished the outline last night, which for me is cutting it a little close, but I'm not too worried about it. I'll be able to get it done.
Far out.
That's great.
So I guess the only last question that I've got is, you've got so much going on. There's so many projects that you're working on. Is there a central location, be it some kind of social media or a website, where people can learn not only about you but about everything that you're working on? Because I'm sure that with all the things that you're doing, there is something for everybody out there.
I certainly hope so. There are two places. My main site is HannibalTabu.com, which my wife made me get after many, many years of just saying, no, I don't want to do it. It's too vain. And that is got information on where to find virtually everything I do. Most of the things I do are also come out through our studio site, the Operative Network. I work with a group of 6 artists and writers, and we work in a collective sense. We learned there used to be this thing called Gaijin Studios back in the 90s, and some other writers have this thing called Magic Empath Treehouse, where they work together and use their, hey, I need something copy edited real quickly. Hey, let me bounce this idea off you real quickly. And their collective work helps them move forward together. We wanted to do that even though we weren't co-located, even though one of us is in New York, one of us is in Memphis, I'm in LA, and so on and so forth. So the Operative Network is where you'll find the Menthu comic, is where you'll find the Wildfire comic, it's where you'll find at least a way to find every other project. So, and I think, we put up a free comic book day thing that was like a sampler, and it had the first issue of Menthu, the first issue of Wildfire Street Justice, the first issue of something else. It's like 60 some odd pages, the whole thing of it.
Wow.
And a prose story from Task the start of a teaser for a prose story from Task that I did for an anthology last year. Was it? God, I don't even know when things come out. But so I try to have something free for people that they're always able to read, always able to consume. And then, if they want more, Spirit knows I'm going to provide it for them.
Far out.
So, and I suppose you're on the Twitters and the Facebook.
And the other forms of social media.
And all of that is on HannibalTabu.com.
I have Hannibal Tabu at Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and Tumblr, because I never want to make it too hard for anybody to find me.
Yeah, there you go.
That makes perfect sense to me.
So, and look out for what is it? Irrational Numbers on August 15th, which is tomorrow. And
I'm excited about Dark Universe.
Yeah.
That one, I can't wait to get my paws
That's
on
November.
that one.
I tell you what, I'll send you the finished draft of that story for it, and I gotta find out when that thing comes out because I legitimately don't remember.
Oh dear.
Oh dear. Well, if you do it,
Sometime
and
like
you,
November.
you happen to do it before we publish this, we'll stick a little blurb in the show notes for that. So thank you so much, Hannibal, for being with us this time.
This
on the show.
was a lot of fun.
This was really a great
fun
time. All right, thank you so much.
This is online gadfly and well-regarded jerk Hannibal Tabu, and you're listening to the Two Gay Geeks.
Can I just say how much I really like him?
He
is so much fun.
It was such a great interview. I really enjoyed that interview tremendously. It was a lot of fun. So we got a few selected birthdays for August 14th through August the 20th, 2017. August 14th, Steve Martin, James Horner, and Alice Ghostly. The female Paul Lynn.
Yes. Trying to think what her character's name was. Was it Esmeralda?
I think so.
Bewitched?
Yeah.
Not to be confused with Endora, who was the mother.
Right. Yeah.
I think it was Esmeralda.
Yeah. Anyway, Alice Ghostly. August 15th, Julia Child. And Batfleck, or Ben Affleck. And a friend of ours who has sadly passed away, Ann Roberts. She was really a great
What a
person.
dynamite lady.
She was incredible.
I loved her.
And also on August 15th, a very good friend of ours, Irene Glover.
She's Mrs. Fusion Patrol.
Yeah. August 16th, Leslie Ann Warren, Fess Parker, Julie Newmar, who we saw at
just
the Batman panel.
Looks amazing.
It was Julie Newmar. It was
Adam West and Burt
Ward all on stage together a couple of years ago at Phoenix Comic-Con. It was just absolutely a scream. Also on August 16th, Mr. David Wagner.
Good friend of the show,
Yeah.
and one of the cast members of Origin Beyond the Impact.
Exactly. August 17th, Robert De Niro, Mae West of fame and fortune.
Gunsmoke.
Yeah, not Gunsmoke.
No, that's I'm done.
Yeah, it was in the West.
Yeah.
Not Mae West.
Was it Wild Wild West?
No. Mae West was just an entertainer in
Ah.
Hollywood. Also on August 17th, Samuel Goldwyn, born in 1882. August 18th, Patrick Swayze, Robert Redford, and Max Factor.
You know, far out that Max Factor and Patrick Swayze would have the same birth date, only because of Patrick Swayze's role in To Wong Fu.
Yeah, that was interesting.
Yeah.
and Julie Newmar's birthday was just
Yes!
days before.
Because she's so statuesque.
Yes, exactly. August 19th, Johann Botha, who is an opera singer, and most recently we saw him in Tannhäuser. Also on August 19th, Jonathan Frakes, Ginger Baker, Gene Roddenberry, Coco Chanel, and Orville Wright.
Wow, that is quite a little setup there. Birthdays. That's far. Well, the fact that Frakes and Roddenberry have the same birthday is really amazing.
Yeah, it really is fascinating. Yeah. So August the 20th, Isaac Hayes. Shaft. Yes. David Walliams, who is the other half of
Little Britain.
John Noble and Howard Phillips Lovecraft, better known as H.P. Lovecraft, born in 1890, and that was kind of the Elder Gods.
The Elder Gods, yes.
Yes. Oh, and the elephant reference was Hannibal.
Of course it was.
And Hannibal, elephants, vampires, and elder gods.
Oh my!
So that was the stinger piece.
Got it.
Anyway, and that's it for the birthdays this time.
Technorama, the podcast for geeks, because geeks are better than cool. You don't hear someone say, "Get away from me, you cool person." Who's gonna have their 65-inch home theater system installed by the Cool Squad? Not me, that's for sure. How much cool cred do you have? Not enough to care about. Think you'll find any canned unicorn meat at thinkcool.com? It's just a part domain name. They don't even have roadkill in a paper cup. That's why you need to start listening to Technorama, because that's what geeks do. Go to chuckchat.com and listen to Technorama before you turn cool.
Go over to chuckchat.com for Technorama and our friends Chuck and Craig. They're going to get lots of play here because we can't change for every episode here.
No.
Anyway, so now, what do we do now? No feedback.
No.
I said no feedback this time. If you want to leave feedback on our episodes, you can do that at tggeeks.com, or you can do our Facebook page, TG Squared Studios, and other places on our YouTube episodes. And you can leave us a voicemail feedback if you want at 469-TG-GEEKS. That's 469-844-3357.
You don't need to hear their identification. They're the Two Gay Geeks. They can go about their business. Move along.
Oh, dear.
Not that
I'm
either.
sensing a pattern.
Not that either. We just got the follow-up items now. So we want to say thank you to whoever it was that nominated us for a Parsec Award.
We should be
Hopefully
hearing something
soon.
fairly
We should
soon.
be. Yeah, very soon.
In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if we hear something while we're away.
Yeah, probably. And check out our calendar on the website. If you have a con or a film festival or whatnot, send us a note. We'll be happy to put it on the calendar.
A con like a 3-card Monty?
Yes, there we go. Yes. Come see us.
Gotcha.
And say hi. We'll be at the following events. Horrible Imaginings Film Festival in San Diego. September 9th, Saturday, September 9th. We may be there Friday night, too, and maybe part of a Sunday. I don't know. But definitely on Saturday, September 9th. Going to be at OperaCon by Arizona Opera on October 21st. And Phoenix Comic-Con Fan Fest, November 11th and 12th. As everyone knows, we are huge supporters of independent creators. Not
As
just,
evidenced by our interview with
absolutely.
Hannibal.
And not just filmmakers, but comic book artists, comic book writers, artists.
There's great talent out there.
Name it. We'll
talk to
about
them.
it. Yeah, we'll talk to them. Yep, and we found out that there is a tremendous amount of wonderful talent out there that are independent and don't get the big money or the fame and fortune.
Yeah, Hannibal, just from the small amount that I've read so far, because the man's his entire everything he's created it's just a huge amount of work there. But what little I've read is absolutely fantastic, and it's a pity that he doesn't get the recognition that is his due. Right. So there's something to be said about independent creators, no question.
Yeah, and if you see somebody that's doing a crowdfunding campaign online, consider supporting them. You can usually get in for as little as $1 sometimes, and you never know, you might be part of something big. Phoenix Comic-Con Fan Fest, November 11th and 12th. They haven't really released any guests or anything at this point.
No, but I would expect that to be sometime either next month or very beginning of October.
They have their Thrill Halloween that's coming up, too. Yeah. So they're kind of focused on that, as well as Minnesota Fan Fest. So check them out you can go to phoenixcomiccon.com and check out their information there. OperaCon by Arizona Opera, October 21st, before the performance of Hercules versus the Vampires. We're going to have more information. I was hoping to get by the Opera Studios sometime last week, but didn't do that to talk to them a little bit more. You can check it out at azopera.org.
Doctor Who Fancast Guide is published by Doctor Who Talking Who on Twitter, and we give them a shout out because they continually republish our stories, and we appreciate them for that. And you can find the Fancast Guide by going to Twitter and looking for @TalkingWho. And then we have our good friend Brian Weber. Now, he's no longer the Nazi punching scald, and I forgot to get his actual, the new name that he goes by. It's far more genteel. But he posts, or he creates the Arkle Times Post-Dispatch News on Twitter, and you can find it by going to Twitter and looking for @Arkle. And in the same vein, he also posts on Tumblr the incorrect Star Trek Voyager quotes. Take a look at that. It's always amusing. A lot of it is a head scratcher, but just don't do it while you're at work because you don't want your boss to be kind of looking over your shoulder. Did you get the name for his new handle?
He's the human Arkle.
That's it. Oh, he changed it again?
Yeah.
Wow, it was something different last week. Okay, so now he's the human Arkle.
Yeah, and he's not the ankle, as I posted in my some
Oh,
post the
yeah.
other day.
Whoops.
Oops. My typos, you know. We want to give a shout out to The Lookie Show on Twitter, @LookieShow, and especially their YouTube channel, Lookie Show. They do a unique view and reviews of movies and TV shows and the like. So check it out, Lookie Show on YouTube.
Special shout out to the Facebook group, The Gay Geek, for allowing us to post our episodes on their page. There is some really, really great content there of a really huge variety. It's not all LGBTQ, although there is a good emphasis on that, but there are some other things. And, it's just a bunch of people who are getting together that love to geek out on the things that they're crazy about. And it's a great group. We love it. They allow us to post our episodes there, and we thank them for that. And you can check them out by going to facebook.com/groups/thegaygeek. And as always, our most heartfelt thanks to the moderator, Jeremiah Reeves, for saying, yes, you can share your content here.
Yes, and we want to remind you to occasionally click on our Amazon ads. We've got little widgets on the side of the page and search ads at the bottom of each article, and it doesn't cost anything. It just tells Amazon we're getting some traffic to their website, as I'm sure everybody knows Amazon. If you choose to buy something, use one of our search ads, and you can we get a little bit of a kickback. So thank you for consideration. And lastly, but not leastly, please rate us and review us on iTunes and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And we've added
I've got more distribution feeds now.
Yeah, a couple of things. We're on SoundCloud now, and we're on Spreaker. So if you would go to those places and kind of like our episodes or like our channel, that would be great. And hopefully we'll be having more. You never know. So thank you. Up next time, hopefully we are going to have Mr. Brian Augustine. So we'll
keep our fingers crossed.
Keep our fingers crossed on that. Okay, that should do it for this episode of TG Geeks Webcast. Be sure to check out our article for this webcast episode. We're going to have several links on the page. And remember, you can comment on our Facebook page or our website at tggeeks.com. Or you can leave us a voicemail at 469-TG-GEEKS. That is 469-844-3357. From TG Squared Studios, I am Keith Lane. Thanks for listening. I bid you peace.
Cheers.